son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We've got all your action from the Bass Pro Shops NRA night race at the last great Coliseum. They will go 500 times around this short track with stage stops at 125, 250, then all the way to the finish.
Interesting fact here at Bristol, in the last 9 races here, which would be 2013, the winner has started from the top 10, 6 of those 9 races, with 2 of them going 1-1, one of them starting in the 2nd position, and 3 of the other winners starting from the 5th position.
Look for clear skies and temps in the 80s when we go racing Saturday, August 19th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. We're back on the main network this week. Look, kids, this is the fantasy week that NASCAR fans have been waiting for. We have great drivers spread throughout the field, and salaries are really tight this weekend. The only issue is that we're at Bristol, and the prediction kind of goes out the window. Oh well, at least for the sake of our fantasy viewers, our picks are free, and we don't hide them behind a paywall to make you pay money to get our picks. With that said, Liehr, it's time to burn some rubber. Do the honors.
Little birthday style for me today, buddy.
Oh, happy birthday. I was going to say, but since you didn't say it when we filmed my birthday, I was going to let you suffer.
Bristol Saturday night style, baby!
Well done as always, brother. All right, man. We've got a crazy field this week. Who's your first pick to burn some rubber?
Well, as you guys can see, I had birthday dinner tonight with my family, so, I had to do the hair and just decided not to roll with a ball cap for the first time on this show in, gosh, I don't know how long, but let's start off this segment with a guy that I got some love for that I had last week. I was just in Iowa watching this race, and I was hoping that he was going to take it, but he had a great finish. He finished the race 3rd and decided to go all out today in qualifying and get his first career pole, and I'm talking about Eric Jones. Jones and the 77 team have been doing a fantastic job over the last handful of races with top 10 finishes, 5 out of the last 7. He started 14th and finished 17th here in the spring. He has a fast car, obviously, and in my opinion, he's going to lead a lot of laps tomorrow night. He's going to have a low ownership percentage because I know a lot of people, including my co-pilot here, are going to disagree with me on this. And I think, like I said, most fantasy owners out there will be of that same magnitude. But listen, folks, this team is on the verge at Furniture Road Racing, has been, on a dominating team this year as far as Furniture Row is concerned. Obviously, that's all Martin Truex. But the number 2 driver at Furniture Row Racing, was on the verge. He's been performing great. He's going to get a lot of confidence in being on the pole and getting that taken off his bucket list. And I feel he's going to obtain the most dominator points along the way tomorrow night. His salary this week is 13th, which is $8,700. This is one of the cheapest dominator picks that I can remember for a long, long time in recent history. That isn't somebody of over 9,000 or 10,000, as most of the dominator guys are. I'm just telling you right now, mark it on the video, but watch out for the 77 tomorrow night because I think he's going to get it done, and he's going to do it at a low ownership percentage because a lot of people are just going to be like, oh, it's Eric Jones. He's not going to do it, as my cohort's going to say here in a second, but I'm telling you right now, Eric Jones is going to get it done tomorrow night. Watch, folks.
All right, man. Eric Jones, seriously, Liehr. See,
Yeah.
you kind of stole my thunder because this is where I was going to recognize your birthday. I was going to say, let me give you the best birthday present I can give you and tell you to fade Eric Jones 100%. Yes, this car is fast. Yes, he looks good. But, dude, come on, man. It's a rookie starting first at Bristol. He's got Kyle Larson right on his heels. Honestly, dude, how many laps do you have him leading? Come on.
Out of 500,
Yeah.
I would say over 200.
No, I will bet you 50 bones right now that he doesn't lead 200 laps.
Okay.
You want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take it.
All
Because
right.
I'm going to take it in my fantasy teams tomorrow, so I got to put my money where my mouth is.
Hey, you know what, kids? At least I respect Liehr enough that he's willing to put money on it. That's awesome. My problem is the propensity for Jones to lead a chunk of laps just isn't there. He hasn't been a lap leader really all year this year. And the real problem is that car is going to go backwards in all probability. Now, is that a top 15 car? Absolutely. Is it a top 10 car? Maybe. Is it a top 5 car? That's where we're getting really iffy, especially at Bristol. And this is where I have a problem, because you're going to have to take those points off of his total to begin with, right? And when you do the math, all these place differential cars that we're about ready to talk about, he can't get it done unless he leads a chunk of laps and dominates this race. So if you have the vision that Liehr has, and you have him being a dominator, more power to you, saddle up. I will be going the other direction, and I'm trying to give you a birthday present here, Liehr, and tell you to go the other direction as well. I'll let you defend yourself before I get into my pick, though.
No, I mean, definitely you're entitled to your own opinion, brother. I'm going based off of, the way he's looked as of late. They've done really, really well. And the sport is all about momentum. And I'm just getting on the Jones train, and I'm going to ride it out tomorrow, man, because one, I think a lot of people are going to be in the same vicinity that you are, and they're not going to play him, and he's going to come with such a low ownership percentage. And even if he does go out there and let's say he leads 200 laps but finishes fifth, you're going to have him. You're going to have to own him, even though he's going to have -4 points for place differential. But I get where you're coming from, where we've got a bunch of guys in the back this week, such as one of your burning rubber guys that can come through the field and get those 20-some point place differential and possibly have dominator points too. And I get your perspective from that. But typically here at this short track, with so many dominator points up for grabs, it's got to be somebody coming from the top 10. And most times it is the guy that is the pole winner, leads a bunch of laps. Last year, for example, I know that it was rained out on Saturday night. We had to go do it on Sunday, but Kyle Busch, the guy led 250 some laps, but finished 39th because he got caught up in a wreck. But I'm just saying that there's going to be a dominator. There's going to be 2 dominators at least, if not 3. And I have Eric Jones as one of my dominators.
No, fair enough. I just don't have him as one of my dominators. And my math just says he probably won't be. One of the people that I do have being a dominator should surprise no one. Oh, yeah. That's right, kids. Superman himself. Jimmie Johnson at 9,300. Look, he really is Superman at this track. In the last 5 races at Bristol, he has a win, 3 top 5s, and 4 top 10s. This week, he starts 21st. This play, kids, should be a plethora of place differential goodness for you for fantasy. Lap averages in both practices today. He's also led 914 laps here, just a potential to be a dominator. And the thing that I think Liehr's analysis isn't pointing out is that we have stage racing now, right? So that's going to segment the leaders even more and decrease the propensity for them to lead laps. We've seen this happen all year this year. It's an adjustment that I'm not sure you're making, especially with Larson there on the top. I would just rather pay for Jimmie Johnson at 9,300, and I realize he's more expensive, but the math says that he should put up more points than Eric Jones. Liehr, your thoughts on Jimmie Johnson?
I mean, I don't know how you cannot like Jimmie Johnson. I mean, anytime you see a guy of that magnitude, that caliber of driver, a 7-time champion, starting from the 21st position, I mean, you got to have exposure on that guy. But I don't know about you, man, and I don't know about how you feel, but, obviously right now, Johnson's in the playoffs. He's got 2 wins under his belt. But the problem with Johnson is he hasn't done anything in the last 2 months. I mean, he's the last time he's won was back in April, and that's when he got his 2 wins. And it's been such an up and down year, and it's been down just like last year for these guys. when they started picking it up later in the season. But I know that he won here, real recently. Was it last year when he won? Yeah, he won. I'm sorry, earlier this year in 2017 in the spring race, and when he started 11th. But I don't know, man. I'm going to have some exposure, but not as much as a lot of people think.
Fair enough. All right. So who's somebody that you're going to have exposure on then, if it's not Jimmy? Like, because I know you were going to want to spend this money. Where's it at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking in the Furniture Row Racing team and going with the guy that's been a no-brainer pick for the whole season, and that's been my boy, number 78, Martin Truex Jr. This week he's starting 6th, so he's going to get you some place differential points, but also the opportunity to obtain the other Dominator points that his teammate Eric Jones is not going to be getting. So I could go on and on about Truex here, but you all know, I mean, he's a play. He's number 2 in salary this week at $10,700, below Kyle Busch, who's number 1. And on a side note, Kyle Busch has just won the Xfinity race, so he's going to be going for the Triple Crown this weekend and trying to win all 3 of them like he's done here in the past. I don't know, man. Martin Truex, I mean, the guy's been unbelievable. That team had an unreal season. This is their championship season, and I've got to play him at a place that he has not won before in his career. So I definitely love Martin Truex tomorrow night, and I think he's got a good chance to win the race. But if it's not going to be Eric Jones, it's going to be Martin Truex Jr. because those two right now at Furniture Row Racing have just gotten all the momentum. And I'm just telling you right now, Truex is going to probably take the championship this year, but I think that he knocks it out tomorrow night as well as far as a fantasy points perspective, and he's going to be a must-own play.
But, dude, I can't really argue with Truex other than this isn't one of his best tracks. But like you said, it's something that he's probably destined to do at some point. So why not be on him? I would rather have that play. The problem I have with Truex this week, and this is the reason why you would want to play him, yet the reason why you don't want to play him, right, is that his salary is so expensive, which should drive down ownership, but it is really an opportunity cost of being able to play one of these drivers that get you a great place differential. And I just don't think I can do that across the board. For personally, dude, I don't want to sacrifice Jimmy Johnson for Truex unless I have Truex being a dominator, which I do on a couple of lineups that I put together, just a heads up. But, like, I would just rather play Jimmy Johnson than those guys coming from the back. And I think your arguments on Jimmy Johnson were good, that he's just kind of been blah. Another person that hasn't been the best but has been somebody that you really want to roster on your lineups has been Kevin Harvick at 9,800, and that's my second Burning Rubber pick. I'm going to make this really simple for you kids. Don't worry. Play happy. He's starting 29th. If you know anything about Happy, you know that should be an argument enough. He's led 876 laps here, and he won here last fall when he went 24th to 1st. Kevin Harvick is just a dominant driver on the NASCAR track, and you're getting a free square here with him starting 29th. The only reason to fade this car is at Bristol, anything can happen, and if you're trying to get cute, knowing that in all probability Kevin Harvick is going to be on the winning lineup, but you're just trying to design a lineup with a fade in mind, I guess it's okay. But I will be owning Kevin Harvick probably 100% this week. Liehr?
Yeah, Kevin Harvick's a good play, man. A guy of his stature starting that late. Andy's under 10,000 this week, which it's going to be a first, I think, in a while. Let me look here. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess he was under, but he's the 5th lowest costing driver in a position that, I mean, he's got no other direction to go but to move up. And I think that Harvick is definitely one of those guys where he led 128 laps last year from that 24th position. So it is a good opportunity for them to get up and move up. I think, too, that they haven't won either since the early part of this season, which was back in June, where he won at Sonoma, which was a road course race. But other than that, he hasn't had a huge dominating season this year. But whenever he starts that late, I mean, you have to own Kevin Harvick. It's a no-brainer. But I think every other player out there, especially those that watch this show as well, I mean, if you're playing 10 lineups, he's going to be owned. I mean, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Some people probably put him 9 or 10 out of 10. I won't have that much exposure on him. I mean, I'll have probably, I would say, 60% with the tournaments and all that. His ownership percentage will be that high, if not higher, as it should be.
Well, I think that with everybody priced in this range and with all the different plays, you might get him at the lowest position, the lowest ownership percentage for somebody starting in the back of the field. But at the same time, I get your swerve. My theory is I would rather be over the percentage of the field ownership on Harvick this week than under, because in my opinion, people that are going under are making the wrong play that's not the likely play or the probable play. But that's just me. Anyways, kids, we prefaced the Burning Rubber picks by saying that there were a lot of possible plays due to starting positions. Time to go through those plays. So if you're one of our fans that likes to take notes, you're probably going to want to rewind this segment a lot because there's a lot of information to cover here, and Liehr's going to expand on it a little bit. The other possible plays Liehr and I have to possibly burn some rubber this weekend is Kyle Larson starting second. That car has been fast all year, and that team has been dominant. This is why I don't want to play Eric Jones, is because he's got somebody that good right on his heels. We've also got Matt Kenseth starting fifth, who grades out as the statistically best driver at Bristol. His teammate starts right behind him in seventh. Joey Logano starts eighth, who needs a win to get in the playoffs, but hasn't done anything in months. Clint Boyer starting ninth, who has been legit at Bristol. You've got Ryan Blaney, who's been on a tear this season, starting 10th. Heck, even J.B. Mack is a borderline play this week because he qualified 11th instead of in the top 5, and we've seen how dominant that car has been this year. We've also got Keselowski as an awesome place differential play, starting 17th, who has 2 wins at this track. Rowdy is starting 18th, who had the fastest car on track, had the fastest car in both practice or close to the fastest car, and the guy's only led close to 2,000 laps here. And Liehr foreshadowed it earlier while we were filming. He won the second leg of his Triple Crown, so he'll be going for both the Truck, the Xfinity, and the Monster Cup Series all in the same weekend, which is pretty impressive. Oh, and you have his brother Kurt starting 25th, who, just like Rowdy, has 5 wins at Bristol. And then there's Junior, who has been anything but good in fantasy, but he's starting 31st and is a juicy place differential play. That's what we mean, kids, by saying there are a lot of plays in a lot of different directions to go this week. Liehr, I know it was a long list, man, but what are your thoughts on that group of drivers that are also just pushing the envelope and being burning rubber picks for us this week?
Let's start down at the bottom. Dale Earnhardt Jr. I mean, guy's 8K this week, 31st starting position. It's going to be hard to get that guy in your lineup, especially with all of the burning rubber top end guys that we've got to put in there with the salaries this week. So he's going to be a tough play to put in there, but man, it is hard to ignore a 31st starting position. And from what I've understand today, he has not been happy with that car whatsoever. And obviously qualifying proved that point. So it's going to be a big question mark, because if he's usually not happy with his car, either something happens, he gets involved in a wreck, or they make adjustments and end up with a pretty decent finish. So it's going to be a big question mark with Earnhardt, but I think you're probably going to get him at a pretty low ownership percentage just because of his price. But Kurt Busch is another guy that I definitely love. Kurt Busch this week. He's got great history here, starting 25th, great place differential guy. When it comes to his salary, he's $8,400. A lot of these guys are going to be hard to put into lineups, but it's something that you're going to have to try to make happen, because you have to get some of these place differential guys in there, even if they are the higher dollar guys. But definitely Kyle Busch, it's going to be hard for him to come through the field starting 18th. But we all know his history here and obviously what he's accomplished so far this weekend already. And he's going to take that momentum into tomorrow night as well. But on the other hand, too, if something happens, then Kyle Busch goes baby. Then you got Brad Keselowski. Love Keselowski this week. I think he's also got a good shot. He hasn't won since earlier in the season, but that's also been a team that's been on the cusp of winning again, dominating last week at Michigan Performance, and ends up, going down towards the end of the race. But He dominated. You had to own him last week on your lineups because he was such a dominator. But one guy we didn't talk about really that I do like, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He finished second here last year. Guy's got a couple wins under his belt. This is one of his best performing tracks. So you got to have some exposure on Ricky Stenhouse starting 14th. But as far as the top end guys, I like Denny Hamlin. They're always fast here. He loves this racetrack, and he's a new father, so he's got some incentive to go out and perform really, really well this weekend to get a win for his new baby. And then you've got Kyle Larson. Maybe it'll be a Denny Hamlin new father and Kyle Larson and his Huggies Little Movers, first, second, and first, whatever you want to call it there. But no, I like Kyle Larson. Guy's always fast here. He's going to take the top line. That's the way he loves to run here. And, they're laying down that grip agent. So that should help them be able to stick to the track a lot more, and especially with the races with a lot more rubber down on the track too. So Kyle Larson is also a guy that you got to be cognizant of as well. But Matt Kenseth performs really, really good at this track. He's still looking for that win to solidify him into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So Matt Kenseth also was up towards the top in practices. So look for him to have a pretty good performance as well.
As you can tell, there's a lot of guys that we want to spend a lot of money on this week, which means it's time to give you some value plays. I'm going to kick it off. And the first value play that I have for you, well, the only value play I have for you is Matty DB. And it's the DB baby. You want to play the D Burrito this weekend. Any more things that we can come up for Matty DB nickname-wise, I'm out. The reason why you want to play him, guys, is he's 5,400 and he qualified 34th. He qualified 34th. I'm going to stuff the Burrito in my lineups this week all over the place because there's a serious need for value first. And secondly, this is a top 25 car. It practiced top 25. It was top 25 in 10-lap averages. And that should give you the points you need out of a value punt this week at 5,400. I'm hoping Matty DB gets it done. And that's before we calculate any of the carnage that's going to probably happen this week. As far as anything else on the value plays, it's just a gut feeling, guys. Liehr, where's your gut feeling taking you for some value this week?
Yeah, as far as D Burrito, I like the guy who's got a little bit of practice here. Between where he average starts is 28.8 with an average finish of 19.2. So his stats are really good here. He's got 5 races under his belt. He's finished, listen to this, since 2016, he started 30th, finished 6th, started 18th, finished 17th, which nobody would figure that starting 18th. They figured he'd go back into the field, which I probably said that during that show. And then starting 32nd and finished 19th this spring. So Matty DB's got some good history here. And for a guy that's going to be under 6K and some salary relief, as Poppa talked about, you can't get much better than Matty DB for sure. As far as my own personal pick, I'm going to be going with Eric Almirola, the number 43. He's coming off a nice performance last week at Michigan, where the week before, obviously, he went out very first lap without even getting anything under his belt. But he scored 44 fantasy points, and at under 6K, he started 24th and finished 12th. So normally I like Almirola at tracks where he has a lot of space to roam, and room for him to maneuver around. But here, it's really not his style of this bump and run kind of racing. He starts 28th this week, and his price went up just a tad to $6,300. But he's on the cusp of those drivers that are trying to stay on the lead lap, in that late 20s, early 30s. But with such a small track, it's definitely going to be hard to pass here. And hopefully with the carnage, I'm hoping that he is not part of it, obviously, but he's able to move up through the field and also gain some spots based on his finishing position and the race in one piece. So I'm definitely going to have some exposure on Almirola because he's still a salary kind of relief guy, but also a guy that gets you great place differential.
I like the Almirola play. The problem that I've been having when I put together lineups is I don't have enough money to get up to him, and that is problematic, and I'm not willing to sacrifice in my lineups one of my top-end guys. I think that's just a problem that you're going to see when you put together lineups this week across the board. There are certain positions and certain things that you're going to have to sacrifice and certain stands you're going to have to take. All right, kids. Well, that wraps up value, which means it's time to go send somebody to the garage. This is our chance to talk smack on a driver. Maybe some weeks we talk smack on something NASCAR is doing. Sometimes we'll talk smack on DraftKings or maybe a fellow person out there giving a show or charging people money for the advice that's readily available for free. Anywho, the people we're sending to the garage this week, we're just going to give you a list. You already know how I feel about Eric Jones. Liehr disagrees. But we've also got Lear's boy, Casey Kane. I don't want to offend your favorite pajamas as a kid, but that guy's starting third, and there's just no way I'm going to roster him. I've got Newman also overqualifying at 13th. Guys, we love playing Ryan Newman, the Rocket, when he starts basically 22nd or worse. He's a great place differential play. I don't know that I want to play him at all at 13th. That seems to be the ceiling for that car this year. David Reagan at 19th. I don't want a piece of that either, unless he can pull off that Matty DB craziness that you talked about earlier and hold that position. If so, he'll pay off his salary. If not, he's going to lose you points. Ty Dillon, starting 22nd, is another person I'm going to send to the garage this weekend. Look, I've loved Ty Dillon as a source of fantasy goodness, but since he's priced as a driver coming from the mid-30s at 6,800, not a guy starting at 22nd, getting into the teens, I don't think he pays off that price tag. Not to mention, in most of the builds I've made, I can't afford 6,800 on that quality of driver. Liehr, your thoughts on the guys we're sending to the garage, and no, you don't need to defend Eric Jones again.
Yeah, I mean, Casey Kane starting third, that's obviously way too high position for him. Also thrown in there, too, I'm sending Joey Logano to the garage. I don't care what anybody says. I know we talked about him as a possible play, but that team is just been off, and they're going to stay off. I don't see him doing anything, even though a lot of people, he's won a couple races here at Bristol and fairly recently. I think the last one was in 2015, but not going to play any Joey Logano. Even including into that as well. I'm right there with you on Ryan Newman. And we did jump over somebody as well. Chris Buescher starting 15th in the Busch Grill and Beans. No thanks. I'm not grilling any beans Saturday night at all. Let's see who else. David Reagan. Yeah. Unfortunately, great. I mean, fantastic qualifying position for that team. But as far as from a fantasy perspective, no thanks, Mr. Reagan. Right. I'm going to stick with somebody else that I know is going to finish higher than that and not start that high. But somebody else, too, that I think that a lot of people are going to be like, well, he's probably going to be a play. But Trevor Bayne, he had a pretty decent finish last week, and he had a poor qualifying position, but he's back in 20th. I don't know if that car has necessarily been a top 20 car, but he could possibly with Carnage, but he just hasn't been quite the play this year. And then, yeah, Ty Dillon starting 22nd. That's just a little bit high in my blood. But your girl, Danica Patrick, did meet Poppa's Paradigm this week, and she's starting from the 24th position. So
Poppa's Paradigm's technically 25th, so she violates it. So, but last time she violated it by one spot, she was a necessity to have on your lineup. So, with that said, just like she's borderline a play. She's been doing better than her 25th bright line that we put her on in years past. She's been a little bit better than that this year.
I know you want to cover because she's violated your rules. So, go ahead and do so. Yeah, man. Other than that, I think that the other plays, there's nothing else that really sticks out in the top 10 except for Casey Kane in my mind. Now I know everybody, is going to talk about the Eric Jones play, but I'm going to be on that island.
Oh, Liehr, I hope you at least have a Wilson to talk to on that island, because I have a feeling it's going to be lonely and desolate.
It's so ironic that you say that, because Jackson's been sick, unfortunately, the last couple of days, so we've been watching a lot of TV, and I saw that was on TV, and right when I turned to it, of course, it was right there at that part where Wilson was floating away in the water, and Tom Hanks, Wilson!
Right, so, that's what you're going to be screaming, Jones, come back! Like, yeah.
I'm not going to say that at all.
Well, kids, before we wrap up things and send you on your way, we just wanted to address the situation that came up from a couple of our viewers and why we don't do the lineup anymore. Well, if you saw the Twitter feed where a couple of our viewers called out the possible individual that started all this, actually, he is the individual that started all this, he said that he had never said anything about our show whatsoever. And I am here to affirm that is absolutely true. He did not talk smack or complain about our show in any way. However, when he did file a term of service complaint against Pierce Dietrich and a Race for the Prize, a friend of the show who guest hosted with us on the show, when he filed that complaint to DraftKings, DraftKings asked Pierce to stop putting the lineup up, and that means all of us that put up lineups had to stop putting it up. Because according to DraftKings terms of service, they can suspend counts, ban players, and just decide not to pay you out if you won if they think you colluded or gave out a free lineup. We here don't want to risk that for our playing purposes, much less for that of our viewers, because we really do love the fact that you guys tune in with us every week, and we want to do the best for you guys as well. So we just decided it was best to not risk anyone like this individual reporting a show that might hit a winning lineup here or there, and that's why we had to take it away. So while it is true he didn't talk smack on our show specifically, he did talk smack on another member of the community that does lineups for free, most likely because he sells that same information and allows it to then be imported into lineup builders that allow you to build 150 lineups via his rankings. Now, if you ask me, my opinion is that is the intent of why these rules were created by DraftKings, was to stop lineup building and lineup generating algorithms like that, not to stop a show trying to teach people how to build a proper lineup. And that's why we told you every week on this show not to copy the lineup, but to use it as a tool to know how to build a proper lineup. Because some weeks those lineups were garbage, some weeks they were running for contests. Liehr, any of your thoughts on this whole situation?
Yeah, man, it's obviously I love doing that aspect of our show, and I miss it. I miss doing it, but obviously we want to abide by the rules that we're governed by the system that we utilize to do our fantasy NASCAR. So unfortunately, because of somebody complaining, unfortunately, we had to change it up. But it's unfortunate because we do provide it as a free service to people out there that love fantasy NASCAR. But everybody's got is entitled to their own opinion on how things are done. Do I necessarily agree with it? No. But it's something that we feel it's necessary in order for us to provide you guys the best show that we can, but also do within the terms that are agreed upon by DraftKings.
No, I just want to be clear to our viewers, guys. The only argument here has to be that this is a money grab for these people, right? Because they're only calling out the free shows. Like specifically in the terms of service, it talks about lineup generators. And if you want us to get into those lineup generators more, because that was one of this individual's response, right? Was like, I don't sell lineups, I sell information. Well, you can import his information rankings into the lineup builder, and that generates all of his subscribers generate the exact same lineups based off of his ranking system, which actually violates the terms of service. But I'm never going to be the person to complain like that for something that's like that on terms of service. But I personally think that that's actually violates the terms of service. And I think what those sites are doing by selling lineup builders like that, or the access to lineup builders where you can import their data, like I think that's the problem of the sport of fantasy NASCAR and fantasy in general.
It's not just fantasy NASCAR either.
No. And to be honest, that's why these rules were created by DraftKings, not for the shows that tried to teach people actually how to play, right? That rule, the rule that he quoted and used, was for people that were selling lineups to people, which is also shady. And I'll just say this there, right? Like anybody that tries to sell you a lineup in DFS is a fraud. And here's why. Because if they had the right answer and had a winning lineup that was that good, they would just enter it in every contest and win all the money. There would be no reason to sell that information to you, right? So it's either that it's, in my opinion, it's fraudulent when people try to, and that's why the rule was created. But guys, we've rambled about this long enough. We can go into more detail and get more specific. I guess you could say shots fired, apparently, and shots fired back. But, Liehr, go ahead and say our goodbyes and get us out of here.
All right, man. Well, another great week. Love your guys' comments. Like we said before last week, we get 1,000 views. We're gonna give out that Kevin Harvick signed Jimmy John's diecast. It is a rare diecast, so it was signed by Kevin Harvick at Kansas Speedway. So, but get us out there, get the likes and comments up, and hopefully we'll get the views up. And man, I'm excited. It's my birthday. It's the weekend. And it's Saturday night racing. I have always loved Saturday night racing because, one, there's just, I don't know, it kind of takes me back to watching local racing in the area because most of those happen on Friday and Saturday nights. So I just love watching the big boys race on Saturday nights. But two, it frees up your Sunday to do whatever you want to do.
And for me, that'll be Game of Thrones party for episode 6. No spoilers in the comments, kids, if you already read it. The spoiler leaks. With that said, guys, I love the fact that you tune in with us week in and week out. You guys are what makes this show, the comments, the community that we're building of fantasy NASCAR fans. That's why we do this. We, like, clearly, as we don't charge any money for it. Maybe we should, Liehr. Maybe we should have been the people that charged for all these picks the whole time. And maybe then we could be launching complaints against other people that do things for free. I'm just kidding.
Here's the thing on that, folks.
I would never do that.
If that, yeah, exactly. If that tells you anything, what type of people we are, we are good, down to earth people that just love what we do, and we do it for the love of the sport and the love for fantasy. And I feel that it's something that we should be able to express to our brethren out there in the community, and we don't need to gain anything on it.
Dude, don't forget, we don't have many of them, but we do have some sisters that also watch our show. So, like,
sorry, I don't want to leave anybody out.
For the few ladies that watch our show, like, props to you as well. We love y'all. Thanks for tuning in again. Let's win some money this week. Happy birthday to Liehr. Ben, I don't know.
Victory tomorrow, man. Take down the qualifier.
I don't know how many more birthdays we can wish you happy birthday on, though. You're starting to get a lot of gray age, bro.
I am. I will say that.
See, I get to say this because I'm the younger one of the youngest of our friends group. So
yeah, and it's starting to show here too a little bit, but haven't quite hit that one of those high marks yet. But every year it gets a little less and less important. But
oh, dude, we're just like Scotch. We get better with age. Have a good one, kids. Let's win some money.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.